Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on something truly chilling. A new kind of organized crime, where the line between a global corporation and a criminal empire is getting terrifyingly blurry.
Right. Let's start with this idea, because it's at the core of everything we're going to talk about. The old image you have in your head of gangsters in some smoke-filled backroom, that's gone. It's been replaced by something way more sophisticated, something that's woven right into our digital world.
And this quote from prosecutor Aaron West just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures this bizarre, horrifying paradox we're about to unpack, using the language and structure of a legitimate company to hide the most brutal kind of exploitation. So let's start by looking at how they operate on a military level.
Okay, our first stop is Mexico. This is where the cartel Jalisco Nueva Generación, you might know them as CJNG, has managed to do something that used to be only for actual countries. They've achieved air superiority on the battlefield.
Yeah, you heard that right. This is not just a couple of guys with hobby drones. We're talking about a formal, specialized unit. Think of it like a military occupational specialty, an MOS, inside the cartel's command structure. They've got their own pilots, their own mission sets, even their own branding. And check out this timeline. It shows just how disciplined and strategic they were about this. This wasn't some accident. It was a calculated plan to go from using simple monitoring tools to having a full-blown military air wing in just a handful of years. That's a pace that honestly most governments would struggle to keep up with. So what are they doing with all this air power? Well, they've professionalized it into three key jobs. First, they're the eyes in the sky, running ISR. That's intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Then they're the PR department, filming their own attacks in high def to create this image of being unstoppable. And finally, they are the Air Force, weaponizing consumer drones to drop IEDs, improvised explosive devices. It's an incredibly sophisticated tactical approach. And this isn't some ragtag operation. Just like any elite military unit, they've got their own insignia, their own brand. This patch is a statement. It signifies their elite status inside the cartel. It's a claim of legitimacy and lethality, all rolled into one. Now let's see how this corporate mindset goes way beyond just warfare. We're going to shift gears from the battlefield in Mexico to the office parks of South Asia, where high-tech fraud is being fueled by a really brutal, hidden reality. I want you to just listen to that. That is a real message, sent from a manager to his team of forced laborers. It's a perfect, absolutely chilling example of that corporate self-help talk being twisted and weaponized to cover up modern-day slavery.
Because behind all that motivational nonsense is this, a system of fines that is just grueling. And it's not about discipline, you know? It's about control. Every single little infraction is designed to push these workers deeper and deeper into debt, making it financially impossible for them to ever leave.
The human cost here is just staggering. People who've escaped describe this total nightmare of violence and fear, a world away from all that upbeat corporate jargon. This isn't a company, it's a prison camp that's just run with the brutal efficiency of a call center. So you've got this enslaved workforce trapped in place. What is the company actually making them do to make money? Well, they're running an industrialized, AI-powered deception machine. This is the quote-unquote product that they're selling. It's a scam with a pretty horrific name, pig butchering. And it's a highly structured fraud that relies on some really deep psychological manipulation. They groom victims for weeks, sometimes months, before, well, draining their life savings. So here's the question, right? What happens when a victim finally gets suspicious? When they hit that wall and they say, okay, I want some proof. I want to see you. Let's do a video call to make sure the person they've been talking to is actually real. Well, they have an answer for that. A terrifyingly good one. They have a dedicated tech department for this exact problem. A live model sits in what they actually call an AI room, and deepfake software layers the fake persona's face over theirs in real time during the video call. Just like that, seeing becomes deceiving. They even have this psychological trick to get past a victim's own internal alarm bells. It's called inoculation. By warning the victims about other scams out there, they basically prove they couldn't possibly be a scammer themselves. It's brilliant, and it's evil. They turn the victim's own skepticism into another tool for manipulation. So at this point, you're probably wondering, how on earth do these massive operations exist so openly? Well, that brings us to the final piece of their corporate structure: protection. The reality is, in many of these regions, the line between organized crime and the local power structures, it just doesn't exist. This creates this protective bubble, what experts call a closed circuit, where law enforcement either can't or won't step in, and that makes escape or prosecution pretty much impossible. And what happens if one country does start to crack down? They just pack up and move. Seriously, despite international laws like the Palermo Protocol that are designed to stop exactly this, they operate just like any other multinational corporation. They relocate the whole operation to a new country that offers a more hospitable climate for their business. And this really is the big takeaway. We're looking at a brand new kind of criminal enterprise. One where incredible human suffering is sanitized with corporate jargon. It's scaled up using military-grade tactics, and it's perfected with cutting-edge AI technology. Which leaves all of us with a final, really unsettling question. How do you fight back against a threat like this? In a world where seeing is no longer believing, and the most dangerous criminals out there are wearing the friendly mask of a corporation.